How's everybody doing today? This is Uncle Chuck. I hope you're well. What the heck am I doing? I'm actually playing an old vintage arcade game called Dragon's Lair. Some of you might be familiar with this one. I actually collect these old things. I haven't had a chance to play this one for a while, as you can see. Anyway, this is going to be a bit different video today. I've received a few emails of people asking me to talk a little bit about our mining facilities, how we kind of built them, got them together, what it is we're mining. So that's exactly what we're gonna do. So hang in. You have to love the spelling here. All right, we are back, and what better way to start an episode than with a couple brand new miners. I just unpacked this one here. It's a Bitmain Antminer L7, and that's what this is well too, which I'm gonna open up momentarily. But I've got this one set up for now, just temporarily over here, and I am going to be pulling a few miners out of the mining room and swapping some things around. So as I mentioned, I've received a few emails and people asking about our mining facilities, kind of how we built them and what we're mining. Do we mine in profit or are we mining in the red? And so we'll talk a little bit about that right now. So first off, my original plan, and I guess it would go back to, I don't know, early 2022 here, is I wanted to build a couple of mining facilities, one at each of my businesses. So this is the first one we built here. Yes, my Goldshell KD6 is still in pieces. I'm waiting for that hash board to come back from being repaired from Goldshell, but you know what? That's another story. Anyway, so here is the panel in the unit of our building here. And as you can see, for a commercial panel, it's actually fairly small, but we had plenty of room to move things around to get some fresh circuits in here. So we ran 8 lines, each with a 30 amp breaker, and you're gonna wanna do something very similar to that. Yes, you can get away with a 20 amp breaker, but I recommend the 30. Now, I'm no electrician. This was just what was recommended to me from a commercial electrician. But if you're gonna attempt to do this at home, the first thing you're gonna wanna do is find your panel, wherever it is, and make sure you have enough room in it to even think about doing this. And then somewhere, usually on the bottom of your panel, you'll see a main breaker, and it will be marked with a service. Like it should say 100 amp or 120 amp or whatever it might be. And ours isn't here because it's actually down the hallway and kind of the main hydro room. But I know we've got 125 amp service here. That's nothing compared to what we have at the other building, which we completely upgraded the service. So because this is a commercial building, we have 3-phase coming in. So each one of our 30 amp circuits is 208 volts. But at home, or most homes will have single phase coming in from the pole. So you'll be able to do 220 volts. And in all honesty, your miners will run more efficiently at that voltage over 208. And we thought that we may end up having a problem with that and that we might end up having to get a transformer. But I'll be honest, we've had 0 issues with running at 208 volts. My only recommendation would be make sure you get the heaviest gauge wires you can when you're looking at your C13 to C14 cables or whatever you are plugging your miners into your PDUs. Alrighty? Now you know if you've got the room in your panel and what kind of service you have, you've talked to an electrician, you can think about hardware. But in all honesty, at the end of November 2022, there is very few things that are profitable. So these are Bitmain Antminer L7s, so they mine LTC and Doge, as you know. And you can get BTC miners, something like an S19 XP 140 terahash, or, I mean, again, we've got the KA3 coming out, which is a Kadena miner, but really there's very few other things that are worth your time, to be completely honest. And again, as I mentioned, when originally this facility here, we had almost all Gold Shell miners mining KDA, and now we've had to get rid of some of those miners and change over and put in some of the Bitmain stuff in here. So inside this mining room here, it's much smaller than our other facility, and we are missing a bunch of miners at the moment because, as I mentioned, we dumped a number of our Gold Shell miners about a month ago while we could still get some half decent bucks for them, and used that money to purchase some Bitmain Antminer L7s. So what do we have left in here after selling some of our miners? Well, we've got a couple Gold Shell KD Lights, a couple of the KD6 SEs, and a few of the KD Maxes. But as you guys can see outside of the mining room, we already have a couple of miners that I've got up and running, those L7s, and I've got another one on the packing table that I'm going to unbox here, and we're gonna move all of those back into this room, and we'll be back up and rocking. So these are the boxes that I talked about. We've got our receptacle here, corresponding numbers. So each one of these boxes has an independent run that is going back to the panel to one of those 30 amp breakers. And if we follow the wires on the ground here, you will see each one of those boxes goes to its own PDU. Obviously, you're gonna need internet connection to come into your room or wherever it is you're putting your miners. So we have got a Cat6 run terminated here, and if you follow the cable along the floor, it goes over here to our switch. So we got a lot of stuff plugged into it at the moment, but the cables are just kind of coiled up because we had more miners, as I said, in here prior. I thought I should mention that each one of these AC Infinity fans comes with a controller like this. It has a little kind of temperature probe on here to take the temperature, and that you can control these remotely with their app by Bluetooth. It'd be great if you could actually control them remotely, whether you're at home or wherever you happen to be, but unfortunately it's only Bluetooth, so it's only while you're in the building. So this is the hot aisle, and again, you have the ability to control from 1 to 10 as far as speed, and over here we have our intake. And the same thing as well, you can control the fan, the speed of the fan, and usually, to be honest, we have these cranked, both are on 10. Another thing you guys are gonna have to take into consideration, and I can't stress, this is a big one, and that is getting fresh air into your room and being able to exhaust the room as well. So we're looking at the exhaust right now, and down here we have 2 vents coming in with fresh air coming in. So we kind of got a cold aisle here, and this is our hot aisle. Now you probably saw there was a plexi panel here, and we actually put another plexi panel that slopes. Again, depending on what miners we have in here. We have a smaller piece if we have miners sitting up here, and if not, we have a piece that kind of comes down here. I'm gonna show you guys some old video of this place being built, and you'll get a better chance to kind of see how it came to get to where it is now. All right. That KD6, that Gold Shell KD6 that was sitting on the workbench, I finally got that hash board back 7 weeks later from Gold Shell. Got it put back together. She's in the room and up and mining. So this is kind of the corner of the warehouse where we built the mining room, and the final specs ended up being 10 feet by 10.5 by 8 foot high ceilings. And we would have built larger if we could have, but I just couldn't afford any more space than that. But we ended up building a mezzanine above, which you'll see here shortly, so that I could have overstock of product, put pallets up there, whatever I needed. So here's after about 2 days of framing and some basic rough-in electric. So at this point in time, we had no insulation in, and we had a few circuits, but far from being completed. A little bit of a look from the outside here, and before we cut the ventilation in the side, some of the cheap Amazon racks, which we didn't end up using. And again, electrical almost finished. Another couple circuits there. Again, all independent runs directly back to the panel with 30 amp breakers each. So this is day one of the ventilation system being installed into mining room number one. And I can't stress enough, these ASIC miners put off a ton of heat, and we worked with professional companies that they thought they knew how to deal with it. But you are gonna have to think about exhausting your room and bringing in fresh air intake, make up air, because your room is gonna get hot really quickly. And these guys, although they were professionals, and we work with two different companies, exhausting has been a problem from the very beginning. And I'm gonna talk a little bit more about it with the current video. So we're gonna talk a little bit more about the ventilation for the mining room. So here we have the exhaust. We've got a 14-inch pipe, comes up into a reducer, into an AC Infinity. This is a T12 1600 CFM fan. Then it comes up, continues on all the way, and then out of the building here. But we put in a baffle here, so if we want to or need to, we can open this up and it will take all of that hot air from the mining room, push it out into our warehouse, and actually does a great job heating our whole space, to be honest. And most of the time, we don't even have to open this up if the mining room door is open. Now, we had a couple different companies come in here that had built server rooms, and they're like, oh, all you need is 1200 CFM. No way, they weren't even close. So these have already been swapped out once. But again, they had no idea how much heat an ASIC miner actually gives off. So here we have the fresh air intake, or the filter box. And this is where the first real major mistake was made. And originally we were recommended a much smaller filter box that housed these 20 by 16 by 1s. And these lasted all of about 2 days, and they completely plugged. So the company had to come back, remove this whole unit, custom built a system that would house these 20 by 20 by 2s. And ever since we put these in, we never had any issues whatsoever. And in fact, this is exactly what we use at the other mining facility, and we've had zero issues over there as well. Okay, so here we have the fresh air intake side of the mining room. The same AC Infinity 1600 CFM inline duct fan. It draws the fresh air in from outside the building, through the filter box, and obviously down and into the room. Now, the guys that did the ventilation said, look, you've got to put the same inline fan that you're using on your exhaust and match it up. And I'll be honest, that just didn't work for us, because our cold aisle was absolutely fine temperature-wise, but the exhaust was not exhausting the room quick enough. So one of the first things we did was we cut these vents into the side of the building, and it actually helped big time. Actually, it dropped the temperature of the hot side by about 2 degrees. So I'm gonna call it like that for today. I'm gonna unbox and get this other L7 set up, and we're gonna head over to the other building, and we'll discuss what we did, and again, what we learned from this building and did differently over there. So I'm gonna get this other L7 the heck out of here before I go. But make sure you guys hit the subscribe button and the like, and I am gonna be back with you real soon. Peace out.